Dick Fuller, tell us then on the way to now.
Thank you. The Historical Society called me a while back and asked if I could give a talk about our family business. She said, "What are you going to title it?" I said, "Then on the way to now." I couldn't think of anything else to say. But you're lucky this evening because I didn't have a nap this afternoon. So I'm not going to ramble on as some people say I do. I've brought my wife Marilyn, sitting with David and Linda Doherty, to watch me to make sure I'm okay. And my oldest son, Chris. There isn't one that's older, but for time we'll call him the oldest. You know, when you talk about the history of a business, you talk about people, you talk about customers. And we've always been very fortunate to have good customers, like Claire's husband, Dick Hedden, some other people. I can't see much further than the first table, so if I miss anyone, I'm sorry. Thanking the customers and also the employees. I see a father of one of our employees here. And without the two, you don't make it. And going way back, we had a gentleman that worked with us on Auburn Street, and his daughter is sitting here, Jimmy Oberlin. Okay. So it's nice to come up here because you get to see people that you know. When I need a flu shot, and I come up here, it's the only place I can go where I know people. I go to my grandchildren's Little League games, I don't know anyone. Yeah. So that's what's happening with that. Going back, I suppose, when you look at a family business, you have to say, how did the family get here? Well, they had quite a journey. Robert Fuller landed in Salem in 1638. He then moved to Seekonk, and the Indians killed his wife and two of his children. He went back to Salem, got remarried, went back to Seekonk. He was actually the first bricklayer in the colonies, had children, and they split up from Seekonk. Some went to Rhode Island, some went to Attleboro. From Attleboro, they came to Sutton in the late 1700s. And they settled in Sutton until about 1875. Most of them had left Sutton. There were a few still left. There were quite a few. I think there were 14 Fuller families in Sutton. One of them left Sutton and went to Boylston. And that's where my grandfather was born. He left Boylston and came to Auburn because he fell in love with a girl on a farm up here. And that's how Fuller's got to Auburn. And I brought some trivia questions with me. And I have some prizes, because I know how we all love trivia. Now, I have a question. Does anyone know where the oldest house in Sutton is located? You were talking about Sutton.
Stone Street.
Very good. Give that man a... Just one of them.
Just use notes.
How did you know that? Oh, that's who that is back there. Can you tell us anything about that?
About, well, as I think everybody probably knows, what is now Auburn is made up of Worcester, Leicester, Oxford, and Sutton. And the point where they all went together was right around First Congregational Church. I don't know how much detail you'd like. 1773 was petitioned to get the Worcester South Parish, all the First Congregational churches needed to be 6 miles apart, so nobody would have to walk more than 3 miles to go to church. So 1773, where we know now as Auburn, was Worcester's South Parish. 1778, February 17th, we went to Ward. Then there was confusion between Ward and Ware. There were no zip codes in, and penmanship was not much better than it is today. So the mail was all sent to the wrong place. So by 1837, we changed the name to Auburn, and one of the other choices would have been Sullivan, which was an English military officer, but it sounded much too Irish. To be Irish back then wasn't really fashionable, so they chose Auburn. I don't know exactly the reason they chose Auburn, but that was in 1837.
Very good, thank you. I never knew that until I was talking with the conservation lady from Sutton who lives in Auburn. And she told me that, and I was quite surprised. If I had to guess who would know the answer, I certainly would have guessed him. In Sutton, Willard, there's a Fuller Cemetery, and Willard was my great-great-great-great-grandfather. He then had kids in Boylston to Auburn. Now, when Willis came to Auburn to marry Jenny Allen, the Allen farm was opposite the Ward farm, and the Ward was relative to the Fullers. In fact, my great-grandmother was a Ward. So I guess back then, wherever you fell in love and married, that's where you stayed, because in looking back through a lot of genealogical records, it seems that the men always settled in the wife's town. I don't know if that's true or not. So from there, they got married, and Freeman Fuller was born, the first son of Willis and Jenny, on Thayer Ave in the house. And they lived on Thayer Ave until he was probably early teens. They moved over to Woodland Road, and then during the Depression, they lost the house, and I don't know, I think they moved to Holden Street in Worcester. By that time, Freeman was in high school, Commerce High School. His father had opened up an automobile repair business. I'll pass these around, Chris will hand them out. That's the Thomas Street Garage in Worcester. These pictures were all done by Donald Miller, who used to be the building inspector in Auburn. So that's Thomas Street Garage. He was there from 1914, and he went into another location in Worcester. He was known for automobile electrics. People would come as far away as New Jersey to have their cars converted from magneto, a few people here know what that is, to a point-type ignition with a coil.
That was on Central Street.
Then he moved to another location in Worcester, and then at the time of the Depression, he moved into the barn up here where Gadbois is, which was the Allen farm. And that's where they took up residence there. And I remember that building, it's just, still a barn, they do woodworking in there, Greg does. And he used to take care of the machinery for his, would have been his cousin's uncle, the golf course. Right after the golf course had been built. Before that, we all know it was a strawberry patch. My father, growing up, worked over here picking peaches. He also watched Robert Goddard blow off his rocket. Robert Goddard was on Aunt Effie's farm. It was his Aunt Effie. It was our Aunt Effie also, but his side was marriage. So we're not related to Goddard. Freeman got married Eleanor Perks from Eva Street in Worcester. got married in 1936, moved to a street down here off Packagug, Maple Drive. Worked at Worcester Buick Company after he got married. Prior to getting married, he had quit high school because of tough times, helped the family. Couldn't work for his father. So he went to work for the Glicks at Bancroft Motors. He worked in their gas station, which was right behind the Bancroft Hotel, parking garage, parked cars, and took care of cars. And used to tell me stories, this is Freeman now, about during the Depression, people jumping out of the windows at the Bancroft Hotel, as well as he'd tell me about a lot of Rhode Island cars that came up to that hotel, and they all had pretty women with them. From working at Bancroft, he went to work then at Worcester Buick, and he stayed at Worcester Buick until the war began, and they called him from Norton's because we weren't building any automobiles, they weren't fixing any automobiles. So he went to work at Norton's as like a junior engineer in the diamond division, grinding wheels and things of that nature. He moved to 1 Water Street in 1941, prior to the start of the war. And he started repairing cars in a garage next to our house, which maybe some of you remember it. I don't know if Richard remember it or not, but it was next to our house on Water Street, which is the corner of Meadow and Central. He worked at Norton's during the day, and he repaired cars at night. Now, he used to get eggs. He had a customer that he traded eggs for auto repair. Okay, there was an egg farmer out on Hill Street. I don't remember his name. I don't know if anyone here knows who the egg farmer was on Hill Street. Bobby, you know?
Yeah, my father.
Well, you're right, that's right. Just no prizes, just a question. Okay? So he used to trade eggs with my father for repairs. I don't know who got the best end of the deal, but
My father.
the cars still ran. Then when the war was over, he rented a barn on Southbridge Street, right across from what's now almost the water company. He rented the barn from Mrs. Conroy. Mrs. Conroy was the mother of Ralphie and Freddie. Freddie's the father of Sheila Conroy, who works in the town hall. Just you want to tie everything together. He rented the barn for $35 a month. It had no heat, and they put all kinds of systems in there to try to get heat. At that time in 1946, my uncle, which was my mother's sister's husband, went to work with my father. His name was George Draw. He stayed with my father until George retired from our Auburn Street location many, many years later. During that time, from 1940 to 1946, my father bought his first record, and it was a 33 Ford. And at that time, Auburn was having record wars, sort of like there is today in some communities. But Auburn's record war was a little bit different. A&K Garage, Keithman had a record. Cross Dodge had a record. And whenever there was an accident, the first one there got the car. Who knows how they got called? There's been all kinds of stories. People getting cut for calling whoever they wanted to call. If the first one who got there would get the first car, and then if there were 2 cars involved, the second one there would get the second car. We had an advantage because we were located near the center of town, whereas the Keevans and Oxford Heights were out the end of town. So we started towing for the town in 1946, and we continued towing for the town until we decided not to a year ago. It's probably the longest that service that's been done to the town by anyone. And very interesting, the reason we stopped towing cars is because cars have gotten a lot better, they don't break down. Most of the cars that were towed by the police department were for like uninsured, unregistered. So the people, when they came to pick up their cars, were very, very unhappy. I don't blame them. And we just didn't like people in our business screaming and yelling and calling us funny names. So that, with the fact that we had run out of room on Route 20, we gave up the towing cars since 46 to 2015. 60. I'm getting correct. It's good. That's why I brought them along. Any money? So things went along fine. And on Auburn Street, my father had saved up his money when he moved there in '54, and he paid $3,500 to Ralph White to buy the property. Then he saved money to buy the steel, and the steel sat on that property for years until he built his first building. His first building was 72 by 40, about 3,000 feet. From 1954 right up until 1990, had 9 additions on the building. Every time my father saved up enough money, he'd put an addition on the building. There are other companies that were, so to speak, born in that building. Our family had the Rusty Jones distributorship for New England and New York. We had that for a number of years and we sold it. We started a company called MyCorp, which was recently sold. It was run by his older brother, my oldest son. It sold about 3 years ago. So Fuller's just wasn't fixing cars. It was used to do other things. My brother Jerry, we started working there in '71. I started working there in '63. Jerry retired in 2000. We did other things. We built a car wash. We sold pickup truck cabs. And in preparing for this evening, I tried to find something that was in the fiber of my father and myself and my brother. Why have we lasted as a family business when a lot of us have failed? Well, the only thing I could really come up with is that we were willing to change. Because I look back now on what our competition was through the years, and none of them changed. For whatever reason, they were maybe didn't have children in the business that could further the business along. Maybe they weren't fortunate enough to save their money, for whatever reason. But to stay ahead of the curve and make change, looking back, for instance, in the body shop, making change, we purchased a robotic welder a number of years ago. It was the only second one in New England. And it's the only proper way to repair a car. The insurance companies now demand it. It has to be done that way. But my father was always willing to spend the money to do things like that. My father worked in the business up until the late 80s. In 1987, we had a gas leak, and that changed the whole situation. The worst year ever in Massachusetts to have a petroleum leak in the ground was 1987. When they discovered that there was a leaking fuel tank that wasn't even caused by us, it was caused by a contractor, they were like swarming in. Everybody, water department, the Board of Health. I understand that, that was a big thing. Well, by the time we got done taking care of that spill in 1987, when did we finish?
2013.
2013 is when I finally ended. I added up the money that we spent on that site. It's more money than we ever made. Strange. In other states, the state takes care of that for you. Massachusetts, It's a burden of the landowner. It was over $1 million. It was crazy, crazy. And the unique part of the story is that on each side of our building on Auburn Street, there were 2 buildings that were there. Anyone probably know what those 2 buildings were? You know what they were?
Water company.
Correct. Water tower. You say water tower?
Yeah, water company.
Water company, each side. And the first water company is the one where McDonald's is, and he just got a picture going around and shows that first one. It shows the junkyard we had in the late 60s. And the reason that picture was taken is that's when we were getting a permit from McDonald's to try to show the town that McDonald's looked better than the junkyard. Getting back to the water company, when they moved into the new building, which was next to the brook, they had a dirt parking lot. And the superintendent of the water department would come over and ask us to pour drain oil on his dirt to keep the dust down. It worked, everyone did it. Lo and behold, when we had our leak in 1987, and it finally finished, like Chris said, in 2013, we're monitoring it. The last hot spot on the whole site was that water company. Right? So it's sort of kind of ironic that we're in the fuel business and that it kept coming up, and that hot spot was burned hydrocarbons. Now, the hydrocarbon was either not burnt, like oil in the ground or gasoline, or burnt, it came out the tailpipe, or it leaked in the ground. We didn't have a tank with unburned hydrocarbons, not in that location. But we did keep the dust down to the Auburn Water Department for many years. I bet you didn't know that, David. Now, in 1991, if you notice, it was just 4 years after 1987. We had to close, and after 87, we had to stop selling gasoline. That really bothered my father. And he said it would affect our business. And he was right. We also, prior to that time, we had a car dealership, Oldsmobile Chevrolet, down the Cape that I worked at half the time, came home half the time. In 1991, we went into partnership with George Ragsdale, and we had, many of you remember, a Pontiac Cadillac dealership in that building. At that time, in 1991, we moved the body shop up to property we owned on Route 20, next to Kentucky Fried Chicken. And the body shop has flourished. Josh isn't here. It's his anniversary, so we let him go. But the body shop has flourished up there since 1991. On that site up there right now, and Chris was talking about, we employ 53 full-time and 11 part-time, because we've since taken over the Aronson building, part of it next door. So it's worked well on Route 20. We didn't last long in the car dealership. We got out of it in 95, and at that time, we then decided to go to Route 20 where the body shop was and resurrect Fuller Automotive, as a lot of you knew it. And with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let Chris, because Chris came in there in 96, he's still there today. However, we've got another trivia question. I'm going to have to come up with a hard one. All right. Hector Richards raised donuts. What did Pop Richards raise?
Pigs.
Very good. Minute.
His grandfather.
Grandfather.
Oh, really? You're kidding me? Yeah, you look a little bit like him.
Mr. Fuller, he was also a teaster for L.O. Irish.
What?
And the thing that you're gonna be fascinated with, and I'm sure I'm gonna be corrected if this is not the real story. My late Uncle Bob LaBrad told me, they used to call him Pop Richards. He was a teamster for L.O. Irish, and he also, when the Model T Ford, when he caught wind that they were no longer gonna be making them, in 1928, the A was gonna come out. Massachusetts, there were 2 licenses, a chauffeur's license and an operator's license. Mr. Richards had an operator's license, which did not permit you to run a pedal car. Did permit you only to run a pedal car. Now, the Model A had a shift in it. So Bernie's gonna tell me if I'm right or wrong, but the story that was told to me by my late uncle was that old Pop Richards bought 2 brand new 27s, put one in the garage, and drove the first one till there was nothing left of it, pulled the other one out after that, and drove the Model Ts until the 50s. Is that the true story, Bernie?
Couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. I just thought you might get a kick out of that.
I can answer part of that. When I first got my license, my father allowed me to drive the Wrecker, which I got my license in '57. We got a call that there was an accident at Drury Square, and it was Pop Richards. And guess what he was carrying from Holstrom's Market in the Model T? Garbage. And I had to get in that car to try to find neutral, and I didn't even know what a Model T was, and there was garbage everywhere. But I towed the car up to his farm, that later Murray bought, well, Kamasi bought, and Murray bought, built houses. That was good, you got it. All right, we have one more trivia, which I will do after Chris gets done. I don't think, okay, the only thing, you can sit down. I forgot a few things. My father opened Auburn Street in '54. In '55, the flood came. Now that was before the flood tunnel, and the water was about this deep. And I can remember my mother and father standing across the street in awe that their lifelong dream was floating down to South Worcester. The other thing I didn't mention is that we've had famous people through the years that have come into our business for various reasons, or all to have work done. If you remember the singing group, the Byrds, Pete Seeger, Andre the Giant, this was an interesting one. They had wrestled in Worcester, and that's back when Jerry and I used to drive the Wrecker. Jerry got a call that there was a limousine with a flat tire, I believe it was on 290. And Jerry goes out there, and this guy crawls out of the car, and Jerry ran back and got in the Wrecker because it was Andre the Giant. He did go on to fix the tires. Oil Can Boy, anybody know who he is? Yeah. Brian Dennehy, he lives in Woodstock, and Brian Herosian. Anybody know who Brian Herosian is? Okay, lived in Auburn. Lived in Auburn.
Yeah, what, football.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I want to tell you what the relationship is between Brian Herosian and Oil Can Boyd. Brian came in one day when he was, I think, going to Worcester Academy, and he had a Triumph. He said he needed a tire. So we ordered him a tire, which was a red walled tire that Triumphs had. And he kept coming in and asking if his tire was in, and we said, yes, it is. It's over there. And he looked at it and said, that's the wrong one. Why? It doesn't have a wheel on it. Oil Can Boy came out because he was seeing Dr. Pappas at the hospital, and Dr. Pappas walked him out to his car, and it was I think it was a Mercedes, the tires were destroyed, the rims were all bent, and he told Oil Can, he said, you can't drive that car, you've got to go out to Auburn and get some tires. So Oil Can came out, I had left, I forgot to tell anybody that he was coming. And he went into the office, and he was dressed in beautiful gold and beautiful clothes, and my father says, will you go talk to that other guy over there? He couldn't understand what he was talking about. So Dick Henry, went out and looked at this car, knew it was Oil Can Boyd, and he said, yeah, you've got bad tires, but you get bad rims. He said, the rims don't come on the tires? So, athletes, and Brian went on to be very famous in Canada. Athletes, for some reason, miss something when they're growing up. They don't know that wheels don't come on tires. Let's see if there's anything else I forgot that's relevant. Oh, yes. My father felt sorry for people when they broke down when he was in the barn on Southbridge Street. He'd often bring people home. My mother would know nothing about it, and he'd bring a family in. It happened quite often. And one day he brought Smokey Cameron home. I know, no one knows who Smokey Cameron is. Well, Smokey Cameron's house got burned down in Wyoming, and he lost his wife and kids. He claims the Indians burned the house. And he was traveling and walking around the United States with like a sheriff's hat on, with a backpack. My father felt sorry for him. We let him stay there for a couple of days at the house. We have pictures of it. I didn't bother bringing, but my father felt bad when people broke down, and many, many times he would bring them home. You know, what goes around comes around. The first time I worked with my father, I walked over from the high school, and he'd send me up to go pick up parts and give customers a ride home, like John Howley and Claire and me. It was pretty good. I don't know how many years later, I was probably 16 or 17, so 50-something years later, I go up to Route 20 and he sends me after parts and gives people rides home. So not a lot has changed. The other thing that didn't change is, when they opened up Fuller Automotive on Auburn Street, my father sold Buicks. He was not a Buick dealer, he was a sub-agent for Buick, through Worcester Buick. And we had a couple of new cars when we opened up. And I went over and wiped the cars off before we opened the next day. That was in 1954. In 1991, I was the last one to leave the building wiping cars off. So nothing changed. With that, I'm going to give you Christopher.
Middle son, not the oldest. Never to this day have I actually worked side by side with my father. I graduated from Assumption College in 1997, and job prospects that I was looking at, some of them were entertaining, some of them weren't very entertaining. So I had recently done a couple of trade shows with my dad, and I said, you know, thinking after I graduate, come on into the family business and make a go at it. And he had a number of words and metaphors to explain a lot of it, and benefits, and what I'd be up against, and what I could do, and the feeling that, it's not just money, but you're helping people out as well. And it seemed like a good fit. So for the first year in, it took a lot getting accustomed to talking to so many different types of people over many different aspects with the vehicles. I would, when I was younger, sit on the floor of my grandfather's office and rebuild carburetors, and I'd get a quarter. And
he thought he was rebuilding carburetors.
He'd give me a quarter, and I'd go to the flea market and I'd buy baseball cards. Saved up all my baseball cards. They became pretty expensive, and when I was in high school, I would sell my baseball cards for gas to drive around. So I'd work after school, and I worked when I was younger, and right up to graduating college and going in. I never really grew up saying I want to be an automotive technician, I want to be a business owner, I want to be a fireman, I want to be... The only thing I really wanted to be was a dad. And a lot of that was from seeing just in the family business. I had other friends who dads would go off to work and come back, and that was it. Ours was integrated at all points in time. Thanksgiving dinner, get-togethers on any various day. Interacting with each other is one thing during the day when you're at the shops, and another thing when you're at the dinner table. But there was, a big reason as to why I wanted to be a dad. Is I thought it was going to be very rewarding. It actually has been, and I've had some great people teach me a number of things along the way. So going to work for the family business seemed to really fit well. I was dating a girl who I eventually married at the time, and being able to be engrossed in the community. I've coached, volunteered, done different things, and it's nice to be able to hold your head high and still walk around the town and see people that you work with and work for and help out. And they're long days, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it very, very much. I recognize quite a few of you guys. Some of you may have known me when I was smaller or younger. But so when I came into the business, I had my Uncle Jerry, and my father was dealing with other aspects of the business. I never really worked next to him, but there was a lifelong education on how you do, whether you're going to be an electrician or whether you're going to be a plumber, a machinist, a lawyer. If you were to ask both of my sons, Adam and Trevor, what does Papa say? And they'll say, work hard and be good to people. And that's the basic premise of everything that we do. We don't get wrapped up in management theories and how to do this, and I can't stand these new ads that you hear on TV, transparency. What an incredible way to try to market being honest. We're transparent, and you have an issue, you bring the car in, we work with you to get you back on the road and what you need. And a lot of not working next to him really was a lot of just absorbing being his son over the years. The points that he would talk just in general about life applied to the business. I hope I can raise my kids to, take the same core values and philosophies and move on. So graduating from Assumption at that point, reestablishing the fuller name as Automotive Repair in town, the dealership in essence became the service department. So any of our customers that, whether they had a Honda or a Chrysler, would still come to Auburn Street, and we still had technicians who were there. They could work on other vehicles, not just Cadillac or General Motors. So when we moved up to Route 20, we built a new body shop. Where the paint booth used to be is now where our Quick Lube is. It was a Sunoco Oil Express, and we were doing quick oil changes, no appointments. The basement stands underneath the car, doesn't go up on lifts. We eventually transformed and bought into a franchise that is still with us, Speedy Oil Change. And it really was a different beast from dropping off the car, making an appointment, having it repaired, against just pulling in and saying I need an oil change, or my wipers, or my battery. So Jerry operated our repair side, and I operated the Speedy side. Jerry ended up getting sick, and at the age of 25, it was up to me to take care of both divisions. Right next to me the whole time, whether he had to shake my hand or kick me somewhere, he was still close enough. So time went on for a little while, we started to, revigorize the, is that even a word?
There's that.
And really reestablish for independent automotive repair in town. And we started booking to the point where we were 2 weeks out. And at the same time, conveniently, the Ragsdale dealership was going to be closing their doors. So we were able to move the repair division down to Auburn Street. That allowed us some more room for the collision center where the repairs were. And we had a little bit more room for our speedy oil change. So that was a pretty defining moment for me because that was where I had played as a kid and where I had grown up and learned how to clean a toilet. Learned the right way to mop and sweep and treat people. So we had some ideas of what we wanted to do up on Route 20, but it really didn't work at the time with what we wanted to do with the property. So my brother came into the business. He graduated from Bentley and took over what we call exterior medicine, and I am internal medicine. So that's how we split up the duties during the day, and to keep us family, as well as business partners, separation is pretty important. So Josh and I are separated by about 100 yards and a couple concrete walls, and we've been able to maintain a great loving brother relationship as well as business partners. We don't have much overlap on what he does during the day and what I do during the day, but together it's still working hard and being good to people that really makes everything go. So when we were down on Auburn Street, we had this business beside us that sold tires. And we had a couple more bays, so I wanted to get into selling more tires. We always had sold tires to our customers who came in, but we never really marketed them or tried to become a destination point for tires. So that expanded, and then we needed some more room for the collision center. So my brother and I talked, and I was about had it driving back and forth all day long between the two. I didn't get to spend as much time on the vehicles or with the customers. I spent a lot of time driving back and forth, getting this car here, that car there. So we finally came up with the last plan that we did, where we had built a new collision center. We put an addition on the back of the repair and tire center, and now all of us are up there. The only thing we don't do at that facility is pump gas. Glass, engine diagnostics, exhaust brakes, tires, quick oil changes, batteries. And it's very nice having all the resources right there. And it's really about the same size as what Auburn Street was back in the 50s when they had their own parts department. And there are areas in that building down there that, still you have a bench with some hardware in it that has got to be from the 50s or earlier. So that move, getting together, bringing everything up to one location, was a very big help. Not only for just us, but for the customers. Knowing that, where do I go for this? Where do I go for that? I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to go to or who I have to see, so it's a lot easier having everything right where we are. As it exists right now, you mentioned we had 53 or 54 full-time people, 11 part-time. I enjoy having those people. I enjoy being able to do things for employees that other bosses may not be able to do or are unwilling to do. But a lot of it is centered back to just doing what is important for the customer. And one of my favorite stories to tell is I was, at the time, 15, and there was a line for inspection stickers down on Auburn Street. And there was some guy with a suit coat on, walking around. He had a clipboard, and in line was Helen Joseph. And I used to mow Helen's lawn, shovel the driveway, shovel the walkway down on Barbara Ave, and she was in line and said hi. Chris, her voice sounded more like mine. You know, I need to get an inspection sticker, but I got a bulb that's not working. Are they going to fail me? I said, no, we're not going to fail you. So I ran into the parts department. I grabbed a bulb and grabbed a screwdriver and popped the hood and took out the light assembly and put the bulb in, put it back in, closed the hood. I got a hand on the back of my shoulder and grabs me and says, excuse me. And you process everything so quickly, and who's grabbing me? It's not my father. It's some guy I never knew. And he wants to know who I am, what I'm doing there, and why am I touching the car? I said, well, this is how I'm, oh, where's the work order? I said, I don't have a work order. And so he began to give me an education, I guess. And he was upset. That's not how you do it. It has to be a work order, and it has to have the inspection done, and this needs to be checked, and that needs to be checked, and you've got to pay for the inspection sticker first in case we fail them. They're not going to be, you know, happy, but we've got to make sure we get paid first. And I'm sitting there, I'm just going, who is this guy? And so he says, we need to go find Dick Fuller. And I said, yeah. I said, we do. I said, who are you? And so he began to tell me who he was from General Motors. They were there grading or supervising or doing periodic checks. And, you know, got to my dad, and the guy begins to tell his side of the story, and I end up telling my side of the story. And he said, okay, so the both of you can leave my office now and go about doing what you're going to be going about doing. And I said to him, I said, all you had to do was tell me who you were. He said, well, all you had to do was tell me who you were. I said, I grew up in the building. This is a lady who's been a customer. I mow her lawn, I shovel the driveway, and she needed a bulb. I mean, the bulbs cost, to this day, the 194 series bulb. I paid 14 cents for that bulb. 20 years ago, who knows, maybe it was 8 cents. But the theory there on corporate and getting the repair order, making her pay first, and making sure that we build the bulb out the right way, and she was a customer. She needed help. She wasn't going to get out of the vehicle. I went, grabbed the bulb, put it in. We lost what's called 14 cents. And you know, lo and behold, that type of attitude is still flourishing and moving forward. And the attitude of what I had described, the dealership's no longer there. So there is a very big point still to this day in some of our advertising. You know, there, you know, one of us say that we try to deliver the expertise you expect from a dealership, the value and the convenience that you will get from big box stores and the buying power of big chains, but it's still going to be delivered to you by someone who cares not just about your car and what the repair costs, but the food that I feed my children, or you know, what I do every day, is all reflected in that. Whether I'm on the baseball fields coaching, I've got customers that I'm dealing with all the time. And working hard and being good to people, that small sentence carries a lot of weight in a bunch of different ways. I wish I had said a couple other things to that gentleman, but yeah.
That's why we're not a car dealership anymore, for one reason. It's just a pawn for a big corporate entity, and you cannot behave the way you may want to when you're under the control. They control everything. It's not necessarily good, but that's the way the future is, unfortunately.
To a point. It is, rather to make his point, that flexibility has to be there. There are times, and I sit on two boards, one for a parts company and another one for the franchising company. And I was in the room with these other people from across the country in different stores, and we all hear different stories about how everybody does things. And that way of just being a number hopefully starts to reverse itself a little bit more so than it has with the actualization of the last economic fault or failure or whatever we had in 2008. I have seen from people my generation a correction that they're not just trading in the car for the new one. They're not just making sure that their child has the sneakers. There seems to be more practicum that is the driving force in their lives. That is, it's very different. You see it all the time. And you say, kids today, kids today, kids today. And I'm starting to say it. And I don't know how much it really means that I'm getting old and speaking to a bunch of 50-year-olds.
I got more here.
He does have more hair. So it is enjoyed, and who knows where the future will take us, and you know what we'll do next. It's electric cars. You can go to the Auburn Mall now, and you plug your car in. Cars that are braking now on themselves. So as you're texting and driving, and you need to stop, now the car will do it for you. A lot more electronics in the vehicles, but no matter how it is, or I thought she was going to come try to steal some more of my snacks. Who made those, by the way? The next time you come up, you got to bring me some. I'll make sure no one with a sport coat and tie is around to see me trade baked goods or eggs for work. But it has been very fulfilling, and it has been fun. It is tough at times. When you can't help people as much as you want, or you know, you've got to help people make decisions financially. And some of my guys are good at really taking the notion that 100% of the time you deserve to know 100% of what's going on with your vehicle, regardless of what we think or not. It's your car, it's your money, it's your budget. Our job is to provide you with all the information so you can make the best decision for yourself. We call it a consultative approach, and it's a very easy way for the guys to say, I don't want you to just fix this and not know the rest of it. Because maybe even though repair A costs $500, that may not be a good use of the money if it's an older vehicle and has a number of other B's that need to get done. But we'd rather have that information be part of your choice as well. So a consultative approach of letting you know everything about the vehicle, giving you the information so you can make the decision that's best for you. And I wouldn't have spent that $500 if you had told me everything else. Or it could be $1,500, and because of everything else, it is a good choice to make. So keeping the car on the road, there is some flexibility that we use all the time to keep everybody on the road, keep us employed. And I think that really is the difference from what he said, is just the ability to maintain control of our own philosophy and our own theories, that if you take care of the customer and you fix the car, everything else should be okay. You don't have 10 people changing one light bulb and one guy changing 10 light bulbs. Of course, there is some basic math that, you know, we were able to back him up on when he was doing some of his numbers earlier that I must have learned in college. But I don't know, I have 2 sons, my brother has 2 sons, my sister has 2 sons, my other brother has 2 sons. And we did have one girl, and her name is Addison. So, Addison. Even though, I don't know if they really thought that through when it came out. They'll have the same option that we had. You can come back and work for the business, or you can do something else. But if you're going to come back in, you've got to be able to generate means of income to support you. And that's where the oil change came in. Because otherwise, if I was going to come to the shop and work and that's now money that he has to split for two families. So that's how we ended up putting the oil change facility there on Route 20. It's worked out well. Anybody been through our speedy oil change lately? No? Okay.
How do you got some awards, 100 years business awards.
Yeah, there was, the recognition is nice. It kind of reinforces that what you're doing is working, and that it is appreciated in different ways. We had one through Chamber of Commerce, best medium-sized business in the state of Massachusetts. We had family business, I'm sorry, through an organization that they have. We've been recognized in some industry magazines as well, and the same philosophy and core is repeated all the way through each one. That it's just about people. Whether they're towing the car, changing the oil, or bringing you a vehicle in, there's gonna be a way that you can connect and find out how to communicate with someone. Whether it's a language barrier, whether it's an age barrier, whether it's an aggressive person or a non-aggressive person. So as much as you like to think that you're doing a good job, it is nice to see recognized outside of the little community, and that does help our business in another way that there is validity to it. The online reviews are always a help in this day and age, but as much as they say, they can also not say a lot. It can be negative, they can be positive, but word of mouth is still the best way to go. We are there, we are accountable. You have an issue, we're there. You're not filling out a survey or calling a phone number and talking to 17 different people. I didn't sit down because I ripped my pants today, but we still are active. My brother and I are active just about every point on the vehicle during the repairs. And whether it be the diagnosing or whether it be confirming the repair, I just put someone to sleep. It's a snore.
Just,
hey. Any questions about anything? I knew that I did hear that our auto sales department, some people thought that they were repaired wrecks from the body shop that we put out there for sale, and that's not the case. We don't use recycled oil for our oil changes.
laugh.
Actually, I just had my motorhome, the oil change and transmission in the motor a couple weeks ago.
Which motorhome was it? What do you have?
Winnebago,
Okay.
Class C.
We did have to, Soupy, the heavier one that works there,
Yeah,
we had to have him get on the ladder of one once to
yeah.
get it down just a little
I heard
lower,
he
so,
put the top of the roof.
yeah, so it would clear.
He told me, when I called him, I said, can you change the oil in my motorhome? He says, I think I can, bring it over. And we had this thing. He didn't wipe the thing off. That was an experience for him, he said. Now he watches himself.
Any other questions or, yes?
Auburn's first police and highway department building is on Vine Street, built from the ruins of the Pondville Mill. If one were to look at, there's an old photograph around town, and in the photograph is what I believe was Auburn's, probably the first cruiser ambulance. And it was about a 53 Buick. Did Freeman Fuller have it? I didn't see that tonight, but did Freeman Fuller have a tie-in with that? That would have been, sounds like about the time that
It's a 51 Buick.
51, I was 2 years off. Not
And in
bad.
fact, he had a tie-in with both of those cars.
He was involved with that?
Yes,
Thank you.
this car here was Johnny Gardner's.
It was a 55 Chevy, is that the same thing?
No, this is the 51 Buick ambulance and this Chrysler kind of a touring car.
Now, was your dad involved in the purchase of the Buick?
Yes. There's some stories about this that I was gonna get to. We're gonna end off with a story.
Did he donate? Did he donate the vehicle to them?
No, that's another story. I don't know. We got a few stories, but, no, this was brought because my father was involved in both of these vehicles. And this is the old police department, as he said. I didn't know it was built from the mill. This is a picture that just came my way, and I haven't seen it before, and I don't think the Historical Society has it, I'm not sure. But this is a picture of the Auburn Police Department with Father Neary in front of the St. Joseph's Church, well, someone could probably hit it. I've given it to the most intelligent person I know that knows Auburn back then, that's Dick Tobin. And he says early 50s. I'll pass this around and these are the people that I know a few of them, but not all of them. I don't know if you've done it. And this is the Auburn Fire Department in the same year. And I believe the Historical Society has these pictures, as they do probably have some of the others. Most people should know the people that are in this picture. That's the fire department.
Adapting, to the different needs and services of the vehicles over the years. Currently, right now, in our body shop, we have some of the dealers on the street needing to utilize our staff and some of our tools for the correct and proper repair of the vehicles that some of them don't have or haven't been acquired yet. So regardless of rewards or expanding a business, it's nice when the service manager from one of the dealerships comes in and says, we need you to fix our vehicle. So I'm sure they'll get caught up, but right now, it's nice to know that the manufacturers have to still come to us for certain aspects of their repairs that we can help them out with. We do work well with everybody up and down the street, the other shops. I've heard the story that in med school they tell the doctors, don't talk bad about other doctors, it's bad for our business. I try to adhere to that as well. I work with everybody and help everybody out on the street. Should be better for the aspect of the consumers and customers that we have in the area, that shops are willing to work with each other to make sure that the right thing is done for the vehicle. So a couple combinations there, but again, right down to people. You grew up in the town and you've been here for a while and raised families and you have a lot of memories about the town, all the great things the town has to offer. I enjoy it. My wife moved here from Sutton. We're raising our family here, and I just moved into the house that I grew up in on Westview Street. I had bought it from my older brother, and he bought it from his father, and I already have one nephew, two nephews, already telling me that, when I'm ready to move out, they want to live there. So, Westview Street, I lived on Garden Street for a while and looked right at the front yard. My brother and I would mow our lawns and wave to each other. And, I find it settling and rewarding to be right back there and watch my children grow up here, and friends that I had when I was younger now have kids, and the community is a big piece of it, and I enjoy being part of it and helping out and the social aspect of it. So I don't always have to see you at the shop, or if you've had an issue with the car, there's always church, grocery store, ball fields,
Historical Society when you get old.
historical society.
Very good.
So, thank you for the invite. I don't. So he's got a couple more things to wrap up, and then if anybody has any other questions.
What time do I go home? What time do you wrap this up?
Now?
One story. I answered a call one night. The Auburn Police Department, there was an accident. Where now like the Piccadilly Bentleys was. I got there and it was the Auburn Police Cruiser that was in an accident with another vehicle. It was a rough week that week for the Auburn Police Department because this was the last cruiser they had. And it got hit pretty hard. Well, the bad thing was there was no way of getting the police officer to the hospital. So I put him in the wrecker and I put the lights on. And I took him up to Worcester City Hospital, that was the hospital. And that was a Friday night, and I went home. The next morning I told my father, I said, this town's in a tough way. He said, why? They have no police cruisers. So my father and I worked all weekend. We had a blue Ford station wagon. We made it look like a cruiser. We put lights on. And we brought it up to the police department. They were so happy. We were driving around in a standard shift, 1962 blue Ford. And they very quickly crossed Dodge, crossed Brackie, Oxford Heights Garage, got a vehicle all set up for them. They found a station wagon somewhere. So in a matter of a week, Auburn was back in the business of having it. Okay, we have one more, and then we'll let you people go home, because I gotta get home, because I missed my nap. All right, this is the last, I got the last one, and I'm going to give you, all right, here it is. At what location can you still get a hot beverage as you did in the 1940s? Same location. It had a place in the 1940s you could get hot beverage. To this day, it's been nothing. It's been a lot of things since then, and it's back being a place where you can get a coffee. And Mr. Granger isn't here, and he'd get the answer right away. No one's got it? Sibley's Tea Room, and now it's Dunkin' Donuts. Anybody know? You gotta know Sibley's Tea Room.
Sibley's Tea Room?
Sibley's Tea Room. Then it was Dr. Witz, the veterinarian. You got it. Nobody won. Dr. Witt was the doctor for the football team, and he was a veterinarian.
How many sons does he have?
Witt?
Is it Jeffrey one of your?
Jeffrey's my older brother.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Jeffrey's my older brother.
I remember
I can walk
when
by.
Freeman would take Jeffrey every Sunday morning in his Cadillac convertible. And be driving Jeffrey around town when Jeffrey was like 2 years old. I remember that like it was yesterday.
I remember color car your husband, two of the color cars your husband had. He had a greenish blue 1960 Chevrolet,
Yeah,
and he also had a Falcon.
yeah, he had it all right.
That is,
I know people buy their cars. All right, we've got another question. A favorite morning coffee spot in West Auburn in the 50s and 60s with its, what are the first two initials of its name? Favorite coffee spot in the 50s and 60s in West Auburn.
that wasn't
Oh,
good.
the diner out on Route 20? Flying Yankee?
I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
The initials come before a name, and the last name is the name of one of our presidents. West Auburn.
Howard Johnson?
No? You ready?
Yeah, we give up.
W.T. Grant.
Oh. Yeah, it was over in They're massive now.
Right. Okay. The restaurant, Kimball Blank or Golden Blank? Or
chicken.
and?
Own chicken.
Very good. Okay, one of the,
Now, Mike,
yeah. One of the people who got a gift, that got an envelope tonight, is to Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim, I went around the neighborhood today to get some stuff, and he's the guy that's opening the old Frank and Nancy's. And he had a restaurant out in Rochdale or something, so he was happy to give a breakfast. When I went in there, I was expecting a tiny person, but he's not tiny. He'll be opening soon. Thank you very much, and thank you for being potential customers.